6 evil mind tricks that should be against the law. Today I'm going to talk about a different psychology book called Persuasion. To be honest, the more psychology books I read, the scarier I get because I understand how simple it is to control someone. The scary part is that most of these strategies you will learn about in this movie are so subtle that your conscious mind can't notice them. They happen in the background. They work like a magic pill. If you give them to someone before you talk to them, they start to believe you or act differently. They believe they are in charge and have made a choice, but they are not. For example, as part of an experiment, they sent a guy who looked like a model to go up to a random woman in the mall and ask her out on a date. Of course, the guy got a lot of no's because giving your phone number to someone you don't know is risky. But when he talked to a woman in front of a certain store, she said yes a lot of the time. What kind of store do you think it was? It wasn't a chocolate or perfume shop, it was a flower shop. Flowers are often associated with love, which may have made them act differently and give out their number without realizing it. When asked after the trial if the shop had anything to do with their choice, everyone who gave their number said, "Of course not. I made a conscious decision to give my number." In a different trial, a man asked a woman on the street to go on a date. This time, the researchers wanted to see how the results would change based on what the guy was holding when he approached the woman. One thing in particular got a lot of yes answers. What do you think that thing was? It turned out to be a guitar case. Now let's look at a different business case. An interesting test is being done with an online furniture shop. 2 groups of buyers were sent to different landing pages. One page had pictures of coins, and the other had pictures of soft clouds in the background. When people saw clouds as the background picture, they focused on picking furniture that was soft and comfortable. When people saw coins as the first thing on the page, they thought about price and tried to find the cheapest choices. When asked after the test if the coins or clouds had anything to do with their choice, they all laughed and said no. They said that none of the clouds or coins had any effect on them because they were all independent and aware. Okay, both of the studies so far have been about things we can see. Could you use words? Can we use words to make the same effect? The answer is yes, and here's why. A seller couldn't sell his $75,000 item. Many people would try to negotiate every time he said the price, and they would just leave when they couldn't get the lower price they wanted. A lot of people would not buy from them this way. After that, he made a small change to his speech. He would joke before he told them the price, "Well, obviously I can't charge you $1 million for this product." Whenever he said that, almost no one tried to negotiate the price or said that $75,000 was too much money. Why? Since $1,000 seemed like a lot of money, $75,000 seemed like a small amount. Marketers wanted people to try a new energy drink and give them feedback as part of an experiment. It's easy to see why a lot of people didn't agree. The product was new, which could lead to pushback. So marketers tried something else. Before they made the request this time, they asked people if they thought they were bold. They were brave. So many of them said yes. Then they said yes when they were asked to try the new energy drink. I want to tell you a story about something that happened to me. I met with a banker one time and somehow we got on the subject of the investments they were selling. He talked about some goods, but I wasn't interested in any of them. This made me think about when I was going to leave while I listened. But before he talked about the next offering, he said something that woke me up, made me lean forward, and made me pay close attention. "I would even suggest this product to my mother," he said. As soon as I heard that, I had a lot of faith in him and the product. He probably didn't mean to, but he turned on what Robert Cialdini calls unity, one of the most powerful rules of influence. The person who is influencing and the person who is being affected both share a sense of unity. The thought that we share an identity with someone makes us want to say yes to them more than to someone who isn't part of that unit. If someone communicating with us can show that they are part of the same group as us before they say something, we are much more likely to work with or believe them. What will happen to Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, when he's not in charge? This has always been a big worry for investors. Buffett was very convincing when he wrote in a letter to shareholders about succession plans. "I will tell you what I would say to my family today if they asked me about Berkshire's future." He used language that made it sound like he was advising in the same way he would advise a family member. Family is the most important way to bring people together. People will do anything, even put their lives at risk, to help family members. If you want to persuade people who aren't related to you, Robert shows you how to use family-driven unity. Robert asked his college students and their parents to fill out a survey in one of his classes. The rate of compliance from students was always very high, but the rate of compliance from parents was much lower, often below 20%. The parent answer rate went up to 97% with one small change. What was the easy change? Robert told the kids that he would give them an extra point on one test if their parents filled out the survey. 1 point on one test for a subject that lasts a semester is not a big deal. There isn't much chance that it would change the student's final score. But when he brought up the idea of helping a family member, the answer rate went from bad to almost perfect, 5 times better. The effects of these studies and cases are very big. This means that if I can get your attention on something else, like being helpful, fair, or romantic before I say my message, then you will be helpful, fair, or romantic right then. To put it another way, I can change who you are in that scenario by using argumentative strategies. You can change who you are and how you see yourself. I can also change how you see me and my message. The next test is pretty cool and will help us understand why we are so easily swayed. They got a group of people together in Belgium and showed them a picture of a common home item with a different picture on the background. The people were split into 3 groups. In the background picture of the first group, a single person was standing alone. In the background picture of the second group, 2 people were standing next to each other. This last shot was of the background of the third group. It showed 2 people standing next to each other. To see which of these 3 groups would get down on their knees and help, researchers stood up and dropped a few things on the floor by accident. Only 20% of people in the first and second groups, which had pictures of single people or 2 people standing together, said they would help. But the third group, which had a picture of 2 people standing shoulder to shoulder, got 3 times as many answers right. No, this isn't even the most interesting test part. The children who took part in this experiment were only 18 months old and could barely talk or think logically. No matter how smart or logical a person is, this experiment shows how basic this process is and how easily we can all be affected on a subconscious level. Researchers have found that putting a picture of a thinking man in the corner of someone's screen while they work on a job makes them more careful and less likely to make mistakes. You could also put a picture of a person winning a race. That would make them work harder, which would be good for their results. Let's look at how we can use what we've learned from these studies in real life. Before I give you 6 useful tips, I'd like to use an example to make everything we've talked about so far make sense and help you understand what these tests are trying to teach you. Think about putting down a seed. You need to do 2 things right for the seed to grow and produce fruit. First, pick a good seed, and second, get the dirt ready correctly. No matter how good the seed is, it won't grow if the dirt isn't ready. So, the message you use to persuade others is like the seed, and this book and all the studies and cases you have heard so far are like the soil in which the seed grows. While what you say is important for persuasion, what you do before you send your message is sometimes even more so. This means that your seed is important, but first, you need to make sure that the dirt is ready for the seed to grow. In all the tests, you saw this for yourself. There was always a line, a request, or a picture that came before the message, which made people act differently. Now let's talk about those 6 tips I told you about earlier. There are a few things you could do if you want to give a free product to one of your clients instead of giving it to the client themselves. That might work better. Remember the test with parents and kids and how adding 1 point made them more likely to answer. Second, let's say you have a product and want your customers to help you make it better. You can ask, "What's your advice on this product?" instead of, "What's your feedback?" or "What's your view on this product?" The difference may not seem like much, but it makes a big difference because the word advice brings people together. People move away from you when you say opinion or feedback, but forward when you say help. You probably already guessed that this one has something to do with the idea of unity. Think back to the Warren Buffett example in my talk with the banker. Third, if you want to ask for a pay raise at work, do it after getting good feedback from people or after doing something great at work. Now is the time to focus on the effects of your hard work. This tip has to do with the experience with the energy drinks. Fourth, if you're a student trying to get other students to give to a cause, you can say that you are also a student. This will automatically trigger the unity principle, which will lead to more donations. This one also has something to do with the unity concept. 5. Make your space look the way you want it to look based on your goals. I used to think it was silly to write encouraging quotes or words on office walls until I read books like this one. You may have seen words like bravery, success, winning, quality, customer first, and so on. It turns out that these things do work and have an effect on us without us even realizing it. This means you should think about what you want to achieve and how you can design your room to help you get there. One time my goal was to make $10,000 a month, so I bought a fake stack of $10,000 bills from Amazon and put it on my desk to help me remember my goal. To get myself to spend more, I printed out the line, "Make money work for you," framed it and put it on my desk. Changing the background picture on your phone or computer is another small thing you can do. Based on the work you're doing, you can listen to different kinds of songs. If you need to be very focused on a job, just search for music for focus on Google and listen to it while you work. One thing I always do before writing stories like this one is watch a video from my favorite YouTuber. I like his movies because they're well made and he can make hard things easy to understand. I get into the right frame of mind for writing stories when I watch some of his movies without doing anything else. I'm also focused on quality and simplicity. Sixth, make sure the person is in the right frame of mind before you talk to them. Use an example to show what I mean. I once tried to get one of my coworkers to change how we did something in our project. We both knew that the project would be better with this change. He didn't want to do it though because it would mean more work for him, especially at that time. We had fought a few times in the previous days, so he was in the mood to disagree with anything I said. I had already tried twice to persuade him but failed. The third time I used a strategy from this book and it worked. What was different about this time? I asked him, "Do you remember 3 months ago when you suggested a change that I didn't agree with, but because it was good for the project, I agreed to make it?" He replied, "Yes." I then said, "Okay, today our project is much better because of that change you suggested." At the time, I didn't agree with it, but I agreed to make it because it was best for the project. It wasn't about you or me, it was about how I changed his mind from fighting to doing what was best for the job, which made it work. Think about your own life. You've probably been through similar things. What can you say or do before you talk to someone to get them ready to listen to you better? Do you want the person to be honest, loving, fair, or willing to work with you? Figure out what you want, then find a sentence or something else that will get them there. Then send your message. And of course, be honest in all of your actions, not just this one. You might wonder what will happen if I don't follow the rules. What would happen, for example, if you use them in a way that wasn't right in your business, like against your customers? You can be sure that your workers will figure out what you're up to and start being sneaky with their customers like you. It's very likely to fail then. Also, remember that these kinds of tricks can work on you and you are easily swayed. A friend or coworker might tell you about a small favor they did for you before they ask you to do something big. There will be a strong desire in you to help them back after hearing about the small favor. Our genes make us want to help people who helped us, and it's hard to fight that urge. Everything is fine as long as the favor they ask for is the same as the favor they gave us. Sometimes, though, they use the small favor as a hook to get you to agree to something much bigger. This means you shouldn't answer right away. Take your time. Tell them you'll think about it and get back to them when you decide. If you're in a hurry, you'll probably say yes to what they ask and then feel bad about it. This has happened to me more than once. I've agreed to do things I later felt bad about. Finally, I wanted this movie to do 2 things. First, make you more aware of the weaknesses we all have so that you can protect yourself. And second, show you how to use these weaknesses honestly in your life, job, or business. I hope you learned something from the film. Check out the movie you see on your screen if you want to see more like this one. Have a wonderful day.